So today I'm talking about Time of the Eagle. It's an obscure movie from the late 70s. Time of the Eagle, 1978, supposedly released theatrically somewhere as The Devil's Clone in 1979, but it's a movie that is obscure, was once considered a lost film, never released on home video, kind of lost to time. But there is one copy of the film available. It is only available on YouTube. The producer of the film, Larry Gardner, uploaded the film to YouTube almost a decade ago. And it's an interesting watch. It's a regional independent film. It was created by this company called Easy Productions, and then Larry Gardner's own company called Audiophonics or Digiphonics. And it's one of those get together a few investors and make a movie in the 70s. And there were a lot of movies that were made like this in the 70s, and they were usually like horror movies, mostly action movies, mostly like sex movies. But Time of the Eagle is a little bit different. Time of the Eagle is like this historical action film. It's like this Nazi brainwash cult type movie. You know, one of those things, kind of like They Saved Hitler's Brain or Boys from Brazil. It's kind of like, but unlike all those other movies, Time of the Eagle is not really an exploitative film. Time of the Eagle is more like Marathon Man or the Parallax View. It's not, I mean, of course, Parallax View is not like a Nazi exploitation film. But, you know, it's like this serious film with touches of action. Interesting movie with some kind of like John Frankenheimer, like 60s, 70s paranoia kind of spiced into it. So the Time of the Eagle is about this. It starts off with very, very eerie. I mean, the opening title sequence is really eerie. It's with this eerie whispering and whispering. And the Time of the Eagle is about this escaped Nazi, kind of like Joseph Mengele type, named Ernst von Stadt. And Ernst von Stadt is now, like all Nazis in hiding, he's in Argentina, and he's built this gigantic medical complex where he's experimenting on brainwashing people. And the opening scene is him in like this ceremonial chamber where he's doing this weird kind of occult Nazi ceremony. He's talking about the return of the rise of the eagle. It's going to be the time of the eagle very soon. Then we cut to this World War II vet, this soldier, this ex-soldier, who is now a history teacher. And this guy is like tortured by weird, and he has this weird connection to Ernst von Stadt. He's like tortured by memories of the war and weird, possibly implanted ideas, and because he's obviously been brainwashed by Ernst von Stadt. And so the movie goes on with him, and it follows him. And the beginning of the film is this guy, is this history professor, and we see him mess around with his girlfriend and going to teaching people. And the first part of the film is kind of slow. It's kind of slow. We're just following this guy as he's wandering around. But the last part of the movie is where it really picks up, where Ernst von Stadt shows back up, and the weird scenarios and the brainwashing and everything starts to happen, and it comes to a kind of an interesting conclusion. So the movie is worth a watch. The movie is there's a lot of these obscure movies. You're like, oh wow, this movie is a lost film, and then you watch and you're like, oh, okay. But this movie is really interesting. It's got, it has this look to it. According to Larry Gardner's website, this film utilized the chemtone chemical developing process, which was developed by TVC. It was a way of like chemically I guess, chemically fogging the film. It was this developing solution, this process that they had developed in order to decrease the contrast so you could see into the blacks. The Chemtone could also kind of affect the colors, could kind of mute the colors a little bit, though this film doesn't really even have muted colors. Chemtone was used especially effectively in the Taxi Driver, with a lot of those night scenes, and the very end of the film with Travis Bickle's final showdown. They used a lot of chemical processes to try to mute the colors to make the film more palatable to the censorships. But Time of the Eagle uses that extensively. That chemical process extensively, because because Time of the Eagle was developed by TVC, the lab that developed that process. So, I mean, it's an interesting movie. It's a low budget movie, obviously, but it's very interesting how they make the film look a lot bigger than it is. And, you've got like jets and people going out of jets, going in and out of jets. I mean, obviously, it seems like it was just one, airport in Raleigh, North Carolina. They're just having jets taxi up and down the runway. But it's still, it does look cool. The very end of the film, which is supposed to take place in Argentina, but most of this film was shot in Raleigh, North Carolina. It was shot at this incredible building, the borough's Welcome Company building, the famous chemical company who moved from New York to North Carolina, and they built this gigantic structure in North Carolina that looks futuristic even today. Today, it's in like disrepair. They're working on renovating, apparently, according to some websites that I've watched. But the end of the film is like this. It's this futuristic. It's a really incredible, like, futuristic looking structure, and it's like the perfect hideout for like this, Nazi in hiding in Argentina. And it was also used in Brainstorm. They shot a lot of the scenes in that Christopher Walken movie, Brainstorm, there. And I have a feeling it was shot. They used it in some other like low budget exploitation films in the 70s. I have a feeling I've seen that building before. It's an incredible structure, and they use the exterior of it in Time of the Eagle, and they also use the interior of it in the Time of the Eagle. So you really get a lot of good looks at it. You're like, where the hell did they shoot this? It didn't take that long to Google futuristic buildings, Raleigh, North Carolina, and you just, you pull that up in the Triangle Research Park. Is that where it's at? It feels like it's down the middle of North Carolina. Looks just beautiful. Maybe it doesn't exactly double for Argentina 100%, but I don't know what Argentina looks like. I mean, it seemed realistic enough for me. The movie is a 70s movie. It's a late 70s movie. It has a lot of waka 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 type of music. Some of it a little bit James Bond-esque, some of it just like waka waka waka. It's great. Directed and written by Bill Dial, who went on to have a big career in television, writing shows like Simon and Simon, WKRP. He's passed away a few years ago right now, because I'd love to pick his brain and see. I'd love to pick a lot of the people's brains who were involved in this movie, because it's like you have so many questions, especially with a movie that looks this good and it's really, overall, it's really a good movie. The problem with the movie, I think, is it drags in that opening part. It drags when hearing the story of the World War II vet, but then when it gets into the last part of the movie and it gets into Argentina and the boroughs building and the futuristic stuff and all the crazy stuff that this guy is doing, Ernst von Stadt, and because he's this Nazi, but he's in this occult world. And I also like the film, how it focuses on if you've ever watched Richard Stanley in The Secret Glory, you know that there was this fixation with the occult that the Nazis had, and that's been kind of buried. And it's not really, it shows up, but it's more like you'll see it in movies more like in Shockwaves or like Dead Snow, or it's something that's like fantastic, and it kind of makes light of like that there were really a lot of weird people involved in the whole Nazi regime who really seriously had these really strange, ulterior, esoteric, occult motives, that it wasn't really a joke to them. And but this movie, while it's an action movie and exploitation and whatever, I mean, Time of the Eagle, while it is that, it also, it does kind of take some of these ideas seriously, and it treats them in a serious context, in a way that other films haven't really done before. So that's kind of interesting to see. It's more as I said, it's more like Marathon Man, that type of a vibe of a film. So yeah, but you just kind of wonder, where the hell is this film? Why did they make this movie? Why, and why didn't they include a little more of the requisite, TNA and the action and the blood and the, it's a very sedate, serious type of movie, Maybe if they include some of the other stuff, they might have made a sale. But that's, always the independent filmmakers. Do I have too much? Do I have too little? That's the whole dilemma. Should I go this far? Have I gone too far? Have I not gone far enough? And that's kind of, again, it's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking. But what exists is a really interesting film. So William Dial went off and became a big success, in film and television. The film is full of great actors. I mean, great obviously regional Carolina, Atlanta area actors, people that you look, and they do have IMDb pages. They did a little bit of movies here and there. The most notable actor or actress is Grace Zabriskie, who later became Laura Palmer's mother in Twin Peaks, became a David Lynch regular, and she plays Katrina, who is this kind of spooky, spiritual advisor to the Ernst von Stott character. She wanders around, does a lot of tarot cards, and does these really disturbing massages. She puts her hands there's this weird scene where she's putting her hands on a flame and doing these weird massages to von Stott, and then she has a weird kind of scene with the World War II vet. She's out of the gate. She's great. She's great. She is in a lot of the movie too. She's great. But beside her, that like the lead guy, you're like, what else did he do? And he seems like he did a few movies. The Ernst von Stott character, Jim, I think his name is Jim Peck. He's been in a few things. But it's like, where are these people go? It's, regional filmmaking at its finest. It's great. I mean, it's really a movie that's worth watching. So obscure, so lost. I mean, after you finish watching it, you'll start to have questions. And so I'm going to put into to the comments, I'm going to link there's a bunch of little articles that, people have posted online. I learned about the film on this the classic horror movie Messageboard, but then I started looking at these other websites, and producer Larry Gardner's own website. There's all these little websites that have all this information about the movie, because once you watch it, you'll have these questions like, why, how, what, So hopefully those are, I mean, the movie is not even on the IMDb. It's not it's not on any of these actors' IMDb pages. William Dial, he's not credited with it. I mean, it's like let's get it on the IMDb, I guess. I mean, somebody better. Jesus. It's a great movie. It's a movie that's too good to be obscure. And apparently all the negatives of this film have disappeared. It's kind of a lost film. The only copy of this film that I've been able to find is that YouTube copy, which again, it looks like a 70s, 80s video transfer. It's very kind of murky. But the soundtrack is really nice. Really dynamic, really good soundtrack. So I don't know where this transfer came from, U-matic or some kind of 2-inch or I don't know. But I'm glad Larry Gardner got this on YouTube, because it's really an interesting movie.
On behalf of the motion picture industry, welcome to the world of home video entertainment.